Breaking tonight, new developments on two big campaign trail controversies as the media accuse Trump of flip-flopping on immigration and Hillary Clinton takes a 1-2 punch on her email scandal from both a federal court and a former Secretary of State. Welcome to the Kelly File, everyone. I'm Megyn Kelly, back from vacation. Great to see all of you. Sort of. I just have a picture of you in my mind. I just see the camera, but hopefully you're watching. Just as Hillary Clinton gets her most stunning rebuke yet from a fellow Secretary of State, we learned that a new court order is raising questions about when some of Mrs. Clinton's emails will be released to the public. Here's a hint. The judge says ASAP, and whether we might know the contents before Election Day. Later this hour, we will hear from Mark Thiessen and Austin Goolsbee and Glenn Beck on that story. But first, new drama for Donald Trump as some media outlets spot what they think is a major shift in his immigration stance, and the story catches fire. Here's the candidate on the stump tonight from Ohio.
According to Pew Research, immigration over the next 50 years will add another 100 million to our population. That's so unfair to the low-income workers, African American, Latino, all Americans, living here today and trying to get a job and get ahead. Hillary Clinton's plan amounts to total and absolute total open borders. Hillary Clinton has totally forgotten the first rule of public service. The job of an elected official is to serve the citizens of the United States. That's what the job is.
In moments, we will have our very first conversation with Mr. Trump's new campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway. But first, Chief Political Correspondent Campaign Carl Cameron, live from Cleveland, Ohio tonight. Hi, Carl.
Hi, Megyn. Welcome back. There's been a lot of discussion over the weekend and today about where Donald Trump is taking his immigration reform plans and whether or not he's going to be able to deport the 11 to 17 million undocumented immigrants in this country, depending on which numbers you want to choose. But tonight at his rally here in Ohio, he really took on Hillary Clinton quite hard. And given that there's now the discovery of 15,000 new and as yet undisclosed emails, and that the FBI and the Department of Justice chose not to prosecute or investigate further, Trump tonight suggested that it's time to get an outsider, a new sheriff, to take a look at the evidence. Watch.
The amounts involved, the favors done, and the significant number of times it was done require an expedited investigation by a special prosecutor immediately.
Tough stuff and a direct assault on Hillary Clinton, suggesting that she has been involved in a criminal act. And, of course, the last time there was a special prosecutor, it was in the Clinton administration, and, of course, it led to impeachment because of the president's perjury over a relationship. Since then, Congress has been pretty adamantly dead set against having a special prosecutor, but given the tenor and the battle that this race has become, it's entirely likely that a lot of Republicans will latch onto that and say it's a great idea and push for it. Megyn?
Carl, thank you. Joining me now, Donald Trump's campaign manager, Kellyanne Conway. Kellyanne, great to see you.
Thank you, Megyn.
Okay, so I have been on vacation, but what happened to Paul Manafort?
Oh, I think Donald Trump thanked him for his service, and I echo that thanks. And then he accepted his resignation.
Oh, what are you going to do differently, if anything, from the prior two campaign managers?
So this actual position has been unfilled for a while, and I think Steve Bannon and I would like to do a few things together. One is just to make sure that all the folks in our states have exactly what they need: the resources, the data operation, the ground game, the structure, and to move forward. And I just had a call with all 50 of them. We had a call probably about an hour ago.
All right, so you're getting the ground machine working, the campaign really in motion.
That's right. And the other thing, and I think that Paul Manafort did a great job. He absolutely did, building the infrastructure. I think for Mr. Trump, it should be a pivot to substance. And that's what you saw last week. Everybody's saying pivot, pivot, pivot. And usually they mean stylistically. You have to be authentic. You have to be who you are, or voters figure it out right away. We see firsthand with Hillary Clinton what happens when you try to fake who you are, or you try to listen to pollsters tell you how to be and how to shift. So in his case, the pivot is on substance.
Some people said that was the word on Manafort, that he was trying to tell Trump to behave differently than Trump, than Trump is. Trump is Trump. And he was trying to reel him in, and Trump didn't like that.
Well, I think what he does like is winning, and you see these polls tightening, and part of that is really a direct product of last week. I think we had the best week ever on the campaign, and the reason is he gave 4 speeches, all on substance, law enforcement, taking the case to the communities of color, and really challenging Hillary Clinton and the Democrats.
But when you say the polls are tightening, the Carl Cameron's reporting that he is behind in all of the national polls, 6 to 9 points right now, 6 to 9 points.
The real clear average ballot tonight is about 5.5, but that's good. I like being the underdog. I think it lights a fire under a campaign to realize you have 77 days or so to get it done, what needs to be done. The other thing we're trying to do is really access and leverage the resources we have. There's a tremendous amount of talent in that campaign. I've gotten to know most and soon all of the folks who are there. These are hardworking, talented professionals who are not household names, who I don't think get enough credit. I'm really glad that I'm in the foxhole with them. And then it's also, I think, to challenge Hillary Clinton on substance. Megyn, the issue set very much benefits us. People don't want Obamacare. We don't even know what she's going to do with it.
Well, before we get through a laundry list of issues, is that why Mr. Trump is dialing? He's postponing the immigration speech he was going to give this week so that, the media, the airtime can breathe a little this week with, let's face it, news that has not been good for Hillary Clinton at all.
No, it hasn't. She's on track to have her worst week ever, and it's only Monday.
So is that the reason? I mean,
no.
Is that a campaign tactic?
No, it's not a campaign tactic. It's for a very simple reason. That's been on the schedule for a while. We inherited it. Immigration is a very complex issue, and to get the solutions right, to come out with your specific plan, should not be rushed. He is taking in the wisdom of many different counselors on this issue, and that included Saturday's meeting, which I attended.
He's got a new Hispanic Advisory Council. But so let me ask you this way: forget what he said or didn't say, or the BuzzFeed reporting and the Univision reporting. The question is is he still going to deport the 11 million illegal immigrants in this country?
So this is what he has said. He has said, whether it's his speech last month at the convention, which everybody can pull and read, or what he said in the private meeting that somehow got reported, I think, and distorted by those who weren't in attendance. I was there. It's basically the same, and he said it again today in Ohio. Megyn, what he's saying is, first, secure the borders and actually apply and enforce the law. And that sounds like, oh, enforce the law. Guess what? If we actually enforced our immigration laws, a lot of this would start to really change. Secondly, you have to deport those who have committed crimes. That certainly is nowhere near.
But but that's all sort of generic Republican talk. Like many Republicans have said, maybe not that
maybe they don't mean it.
Maybe that's not strict. Well, that's what people are wondering, whether Trump means it too. Because, in the primary season, he came out and said he would favor a deportation force. He was pretty explicit about that. And so now the question is there doubt about that?
I think a deportation force is more the logistics. In other words, how do you achieve the goal of making sure that we are fair to everyone? I think too much of the conversation is always about what's fair to the illegal immigrants. What about what's fair to the American worker?
So they are going to be deported. The 11 million are going to be deported.
He has said, here's what he said about that. He will enforce the law, which will take care of a lot of that. He will deport those who have absolutely committed a crime, been convicted of a crime. He will make sure that American jobs are protected. He will absolutely build that wall.
That provides wiggle room that wasn't there before. Let's just play the deportation force soundbite, because this is what he said during the primary season.
Are you going to have a massive deportation force?
You're going to have a deportation force, and you're going to do it humanely. They're going back where they came. If they came from a certain country, they're going to be brought back to that country. That's the way it's supposed to be. Now, they can come back, but they have to come back legally.
Mr. Trump, you've called for a deportation force to remove the 11 million undocumented immigrants from the United States.
Country or we don't have a country. We have at least 11 million people in this country that came in illegally. They will go out.
So he was there was no wiggle room. It was, they're going.
Well, he's not wiggling.
Okay, so they're still going. He is deporting them.
He wants to apply the law, and he wants to make sure that we have, I think the most important thing of what he has said and still says, and I'm very happy that you played the entire clip there, is that we need to do it humanely. He keeps saying that. He said it on Saturday.
No, he's definitely said humanely from the beginning.
Humanely, fairly, and effectively.
But there's a question about today, and even today you're not being explicit, which is going to lead to more questions.
When it comes to Donald Trump, everybody always sticks on one word. I mean, I know Hillary Clinton is boring to cover and she lies for a living, but he says to her, deportation force, and most of America thinks she lies, but I'm just one of them. Deportation force. He is talking about mechanisms. He's taking a multitude of counselors, but even Senator Jeff Sessions, who is a very close advisor on this issue, has never called for a deportation force.
Right, but Donald Trump did.
So
that's why it's news.
But look, I think what's happening here is the media are so worried that he had a good week, the mainstream media, who reported on this and distorted it. I was in that meeting. He did not say that. And the people actually in the meeting said
well,
that
I understand.
He did not
that's
say
why
that.
I don't want to get hung up in the meeting. I don't care what happened in the meeting. I only care what the position
in terms
is.
Of, did he flip-flop? What does he say in private that's public? This is somebody who I always hear say the same thing in private as public, I assure you.
I got to ask you this final question. You know that you were a Ted Cruz supporter during the primaries, and you came out and said, I don't like the personal insults. I don't like somebody who hurls personal insults. And then you came out and said, Donald Trump doesn't do that. Now, you know that's not true.
Well, what I was saying in the context of he doesn't do it without being attacked first. I mean, people forget that this man is attacked.
Does that excuse it?
Well,
I mean, just today he called Mika Brzezinski neurotic, which is another term for basically mentally ill.
And look, I don't like the
He's called other female news personalities things like crazy.
I don't like the personal
The man does hurl personal insults, Kellyanne.
But not unprompted, meaning I don't like personal insults. Let me make very clear. I don't like them only because I'm a mother of 4 young children. I'd be a hypocrite if I liked them. And I actually think he can win on the issues, on the substance. Our best game against Hillary Clinton is to take her on foursquare about her record.
But how is that working so far? Because that stuff about Mika was today.
So he felt like he was being attacked, and we have interns monitoring the programs, and he felt like he was told it was like a 3-hour screen.
With all due respect to my friends over on MSNBC, that show has like 2 viewers. Why does he let himself get worked up over what? So she doesn't like him. Too bad. Who cares?
Well, look, I'll tell you this, Megyn. If it's up to me, he's in a tennis match with Hillary Clinton. He's lobbying and shooting aces at her all day long. We don't pick a fight with the ref. We don't boo the crowd because we're absolutely back in Hillary Clinton's head. He's occupying seriously real estate in her head because you see the way they're reacting. They're trying to make this campaign about Donald Trump, and a lot of their friends in the media are trying to make this campaign about Donald Trump. But I appreciate anyone who's willing to remind us that there are actually 2 candidates in the race, and we should be covering both of them.
And she is up next. So Donald Trump has moved on from the Upper West Side, from the parade of buildings on the Upper West Side of Manhattan to renting space in Hillary's head.
Yes, I like it.
We will talk about that tomorrow. Kellyanne, what a pleasure.
Thank you for having me.
Big fan of yours. Thank you for being here. All the best. Well, also tonight, new questions about when voters will get to see some of the 15,000 emails that Team Clinton tried to hold back from the FBI. Remember, they were deleted, but the FBI was able to find them and said that they had nothing to do with business. And then the FBI said, oh, yes, they did. Well, we may get to see these things before Election Day. Mark Thiessen and Austin Goolsbee on the effect that's going to have next. Plus, Glenn Beck today shared with us news on his pick for president, and you're going to hear from him in moments. Stay tuned. With so many of the American people out there saying, I don't like either one of these folks. I don't, these are the choices you have. Like, you can go for Gary Johnson, but realistically, Gary Johnson has no chance. If you will, what do you plan on doing? Breaking tonight, new information on nearly 15,000 previously unseen and potentially damaging emails from Hillary Clinton's private server. They may be released to the public just weeks before the November election. No one outside of the FBI has seen these documents, except perhaps her lawyers. And this batch may include thousands of work-related messages that Hillary Clinton claimed she had already turned over. Watch.
We went through a thorough process to identify all of my work-related emails and deliver them to the State Department.
I turned over everything I was obligated to turn over, and then I moved on. I turned over everything that I could imagine. We turned over every document in my possession when the State Department requested it.
When I see you are interviewed, you make a point of saying, I turned over everything.
All my work-related emails.
How do you know that?
I know that because there was an exhaustive search done under the supervision of my attorneys.
It wasn't that exhaustive, as it turns out. Chief Intelligence Correspondent Catherine Herridge has the story from Washington. Catherine?
Megyn, this morning, a federal judge here in Washington ordered the State Department to speed up its review of the 14,900 emails recovered by the FBI investigation. These emails were sent or received by Hillary Clinton. They were not among the records turned over to the State Department. The State Department is working through what was government business and what was personal by the court-imposed deadline.
The intent is to do that appraisal before September 23rd. We're still in the process of looking at the amount of effort, the amount of resources we need to commit to doing that. But that's the intent, at least.
Judicial Watch, who brought the Freedom of Information Act lawsuit, said the new records are more evidence of bad faith.
Mrs. Clinton swore under penalty of perjury that as best as she knew, all these records, all government records have been turned over. But this court hearing today demonstrated that wasn't the case.
In a separate lawsuit, Judicial Watch also released new emails from Clinton aide Huma Abedin that suggest top donors to the Clinton Foundation, like the Crown Prince of Bahrain, got special access to then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton. The Clinton campaign said in a statement that Judicial Watch is a conservative group that has dogged the Clintons since the 1990s, making false accusations. Megyn?
Catherine Herridge, thank you. We also have new reaction tonight from one of America's most respected men, who says Mrs. Clinton's campaign is trying to blame her email problems on him. Mrs. Clinton reportedly telling the FBI that former Secretary of State Colin Powell encouraged her to use a private email. On Saturday, Secretary Powell telling People magazine, quote, "The truth is she was using that for a year before I sent her a memo telling her what I did. Her people have been trying to pin it on me." Mark Thiessen is a Fox News contributor and a fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, and Austin Goolsbee is a former advisor to President Obama and professor at the University of Chicago's Booth School of Business. Great to see you both.
Good to see you, Megyn.
So let's just be perfectly clear about what Hillary Clinton told Congress in 2015 about her email. Because remember, she had the business emails at home, and she had some personal stuff that was on this mixed email. She said, we gave all the business stuff back over to the State Department years after I left, and they finally realized what I'd been doing. We gave it all. We held back yoga, we held back Chelsea's wedding, but we gave everything business. This is what she said in October 2015 to Congress.
The search terms were everything you could imagine that might be related to anything, but they also went through every single email.
Hello, here we are. Yes, hi. Okay, that's what she said, Mark. The lawyers went through every single one, and the FBI said, then they stink. Because they have a bunch, and now we're supposed to get to see them soon, right?
Absolutely. It looks like we're going to get about 14,900 of them. And apparently they're all about yoga, which is now why we know why she's so flexible with the truth.
Oh.
She's got 14,000 emails on yoga.
Oh, nice.
I mean, the reality is, look, she lies repeatedly about her emails, and now she's lying again about Colin Powell. And Colin Powell, quite frankly, has gotten sick of being blamed for Hillary Clinton's email mess. She said repeatedly, I did the exact same thing as Colin Powell. No, she didn't. Colin Powell did not do any of the things that Hillary Clinton did. Hillary Clinton is the only Secretary of State in American history to use private email for all of her official business. She's the only Secretary of State in American history to have had a private server in her basement where she kept classified information. And she's the only Secretary of State in American history, when the State Department asked for those emails back, to order her lawyers to destroy 30,000 of them. Mm-hmm. So, you know, Colin Powell didn't do any of that stuff. And now, if Colin Powell is telling the truth, we've caught her in another lie, because she told the FBI, she claims she was totally truthful with the FBI. She told the FBI that Colin Powell gave her the idea to use private emails. He says that's not true.
Well, it's not clear. It's not clear what she told the FBI. It's not clear, but because now they're saying that the FBI specifically asked her about correspondence she had with Colin Powell, and in response to that, she said, hey, he told me that he did it too, and he's saying, yeah, I told her a year after. But it's not clear whether she lied to the FBI, but it has come up today, and Colin Powell, Austin, is not a defender of hers. But I want to ask you about something else, Austin, because the thing that caught my eye most of anything today was this business of the Clinton Foundation. Now, when she became Secretary of State, she was not supposed to use that role to advance the Clinton Foundation. And she was not supposed to make nice with people who had given to the Clinton Foundation in her role as our secretary, right? You agree with all that?
Well, I don't know. When you say make nice, what does that mean? The Secretary of State meets with foreign leaders all the time. She's not supposed to do glad-handing and sort of build relationships for her Clinton Foundation through her role as Secretary of State. If that's the only reason she was meeting with foreign leaders, yes, I agree with that.
Okay. So you explain to me whether that correspondence Catherine Herridge just referenced is kosher, where you've got Hillary Clinton, let's just put it on the board. You've got the Clinton Foundation executive, Doug Band, writing Huma Abedin, her top assistant, at Huma's State Department email address, referring to the Crown Prince of Bahrain, CP of Bahrain. See this at the bottom, viewers? CP of Bahrain. He's saying, this is the Clinton Foundation guy saying to Hillary's right-hand woman, Crown Prince of Bahrain in tomorrow to Friday, asking to see her. Good friend of ours over here at the Clinton Foundation. And so he's basically trying to do an end around because here's what Huma responds. He asked to see HRC Thursday and Friday through normal channels. So this guy went through normal channels, apparently didn't get the answer he wanted, and then tried to go through the Clinton Foundation. And they were only too happy to help. And then you can see Huma finally responds, offering Bahrain Crown Prince 10 tomorrow for meeting. I mean, this looks sketchy, Austin. You tell me.
Look, if we're now going to argue about the scheduling of meeting the Crown Prince of Bahrain, who the State Department meets with the Crown Prince of Bahrain, I mean, that is a thing that happens.
But usually the State Department arranges it, and they didn't.
Who I've never met. I don't know anything about it. I think we are descending well into the trivial if we're going to start going through the scheduling. And if the insinuation is that it's conflict of interest, I don't know why we aren't talking about the Donald Trump tax plan, where he proposed literally a tax cut for his own businesses that would total in the hundreds of millions of dollars.
Mark, the thing is, this guy, the Crown Prince of Bahrain, gave $32 million. I mean, this group had committed a lot of money to the Clinton Global Initiative over the prior years.
To a charity.
No, he was a donor. He was a donor to the Clinton, but he also gave $100,000.
He was a donor and the Crown Prince
Austin,
of Bahrain.
Hold on, you're wrong.
Sorry.
You're wrong.
Go ahead,
he gave
Mark,
$100,000 to the Clinton Foundation directly, and also gave money to the charities. So both statements are true. And the problem here isn't so much the scheduling of the King of Bahrain. The problem is that the King of Bahrain went through official channels, didn't get what he wanted, so thought, hey, I'm a donor to the Clinton Foundation. They'll hook me up. And the Clinton State Department was more than willing to oblige. And here's the problem. Doug Band was an official at the Clinton Foundation, and also a consulting firm called Teneo. And Huma Abedin, while this was all going on during her time at the State Department, was an employee of the State Department, the Clinton Foundation, and Doug Band's consulting firm. I mean, if that's not corruption, I don't know what the word is.
Switch to decaf. Let's tone it down just a bit. This is moving into the same kind of conspiratorial. The next we're going to have Whitewater. We're going to be back to Vince Foster.
That's what Clinton's defenders say every time you bring up any of her issues. It's a conspiracy. It's a conspiracy theorist.
Look, it is a conspiracy.
All right, I got to go. And so we'll leave it at that. It's a conspiracy theory, and these are two good men to walk us through it. Thank you. So one of the most unpredictable critics of both presidential frontrunners, I say both of them, is answering our questions next on who's getting his vote in November. Glenn Beck is right after this break. Plus, after days of the president taking heat for playing golf while Louisiana was drowning in floodwaters, Mr. Obama will tomorrow visit the state, and we'll show you how residents are reacting to that. So in the last 30 minutes, we walked you through how the Trump campaign is handling a new firestorm over immigration and how the Hillary camp is trying to deal with new bombshells over emails. Here now to react to all of it, Glenn Beck, ladies and gentlemen, founder of The Blaze and author of Liars, How Progressives Exploit Our Fears for Power and Control. Great to see you, Glenn, as always.
Good to see you, Megyn. Thank you very much.
All right, so let's start with Trump and whether you believe he's flipped on immigration, or whether whether you think he's going to hold true to the original stance he took on immigration as he was running in the GOP primary.
No, just give it a couple of days and he'll change it again. I think he is the most untrustworthy guy. Well, no, I can't say that because we also have Hillary Clinton. I mean, it is, we've got the possibility of a rope that may be frayed that you could hang yourself with, or arsenic that may be outdated. Which one do you want? It's Donald Trump, Hillary Clinton. I don't know which one is better. Donald Trump, I don't believe a word he has said from the beginning on any of his policies.
Mm-hmm. And do you think it's a situation, Glenn, where he's going to say what he wants, and what he thinks he needs to say to get elected, and then we'll find out. We'll find out how he governs. But his supporters believe we'll like the answer.
Well, yes, they do. And Nancy Pelosi believed when she said about Obamacare that you have to, it's like Christmas, you have to open the box, to see what's in it. You have to vote for it before we tell you what's in it. No, thank you. I mean, we're supposed to use some intelligence here and judge a man by his record, and he does not have a good record of telling the truth,
and neither does she. Neither does she. That's the problem for the American voters,
values.
Right? I mean, look at it. She has a repeated history of not telling the truth, and then the news that comes out today about her emails and the Clinton Foundation just support that. Does it not?
But nobody is surprised by this. This is what is so tragic about this. It didn't have to be this way. We actually had some other choices. I would have taken just about any of them other than these two. It is remarkable to me. And so many people, I'm sure, Megyn, there are a lot of people in your audience that are very mad at me because I won't back up Donald Trump. And a lot of people write to me and they say, well, it's because you supported Ted Cruz. How third grade do you have to be to not vote for him because you're jealous, you're angry, or bitter? That's ridiculous. I've done a lot of soul searching on what do I do? What do I do? And I believe that everybody who I have talked to in my audience for the last 15 years, I have said, there's going to come a time when you're going to have to stay the course, and nobody's going to like it. But you'll be the audience that will save the nation.
But what does that mean?
These are those times. So
what do you think people should do?
I think that, one of the things is both sides now are starting to come apart at the seams with anger. There was an article in the New York Times, and I thought the article was unfair to Trump supporters, but I thought the video was actually accurate and couldn't have been faked, where it shows all of the anger, and I mean really bad racist style anger. We have the same thing on Black Lives Matter on the left, and we had it in Occupy Wall Street. I don't think that Black Lives Matter is a representation of the African American community at large, and I don't think that those few racists that are around that want violence, want to break the system up. Bannon, the guy who is now running the Trump campaign, said in a report today that he's a Leninist. I was hoping that maybe he meant John Lennon, but he means Lenin. And what he is saying is, I want to destroy the system. People have to stand up, and the good Trump supporters, there's millions of people who are not racist, who are not standing by violence, who don't want to destroy the entire system. Those people have to distance themselves, not even from the candidate, but from that kind of rhetoric and that kind of messaging. It's really dangerous.
Okay, but I want to push you on this because that leaves the question with so many of the American people out there saying, I don't like either one of these folks. I don't. These are the choices you have. Like, you can go for Gary Johnson, but realistically, Gary Johnson has no chance. If you will, what do you plan on doing? But secondly, what do you see? I mean, one of these people is going to be the next president, barring something huge happening between now and November. So how do you see America in 4 years from now?
I will tell you, I mean it when I said, it's a loaded gun with 6 bullets in the chambers, but one of them may be defective and
it's got a bunch of these.
And arsenic. Right, it's not. I'm not going to choose either one of those.
You're not. Okay, you're doing the write-in vote.
No. I'm not staying home. I am not staying home. I don't know who I'm going to vote for. It won't be those two. I haven't found one yet. But I will. I will tell you this, Megyn. I will be voting for the under ticket. We have to find people who believe in the Constitution, because either one of these two are dangerous to the Republic.
So how do you see now? So somebody is going to win. One of those two is likely going to win. How do you see the country 4 years from that point?
If it's Hillary Clinton, best case scenario, Bill Clinton plays a more active role, and she starts to triangulate, and we're in deep trouble. We have horrible Supreme Court justices, but that's best case scenario. Worst case scenario, don't cry for me, Argentina, she's out on the balcony. Best case scenario on the Trump, I'm completely wrong about Trump. We have 1 or 2 Supreme Court justices that we can live with. Worst case scenario, and I think this is more probable than not, he becomes a guy who has gone way off the rails with the Constitution, and we're looking at a South American kind of situation with him. People don't understand what's coming, and what is coming is civil unrest, war on a global scale, and an economic situation that we haven't seen since the 1930s. That is what this president will be facing, and I will tell you, I don't trust either of them. We have to make sure the underticket, they are strong constitutionalists.
And on that happy note, with the future prediction intact, we say goodbye for now to our friend Glenn Beck. Always great to see you, Glenn.
Thank you, Megyn.
So what do the voters think of all this? Chris Stirewalt and Stuart Stevens are next on how the polls are moving. Developing tonight, Donald Trump supporters are increasingly finding themselves the target of protests. The latest example comes out of a Minneapolis fundraiser where they were met by angry crowds who yelled at them, spat on them, threw things, and burned an American flag. Trace Gallagher reports from our West Coast newsroom. Trace?
Megyn, the high-dollar fundraiser at the Minneapolis Convention Center was Donald Trump's first visit to Minnesota as the GOP presidential candidate, but he never made a public appearance or gave interviews. The march began as a dozen peaceful protesters and soon became a rowdy crowd of more than 100. The gathering was organized by the Minnesota Immigrants' Rights Action Committee, and it remains unclear if outside agitators joined in. Initially, Trump supporters were heckled, harassed, and taunted. Then the verbal assault turned physical. Protesters spitting, hurling objects, throwing punches. Trump supporters say they were surprised that police and security did not hold back the crowd. Listen.
We were literally ambushed. We walked out the doors and all of these things happened. Why wouldn't you be prepared for when those people are leaving?
Witnesses say only when Trump's motorcade came through did police intervene. There reportedly was graffiti on the walls of the convention center along with some minor damage. There were no arrests. Megyn.
Trace, thank you. We are also seeing the national polls tighten up somewhat, with Hillary Clinton losing 3 points off of her lead in the Real Clear Politics average of polls. But the state polls out of the swing states remain a different story. Chris Stirewalt is our Fox News digital politics editor. Stuart Stevens is founding partner of Strategic Partners and Media. Great to see you both. So, Stirewalt, we have seen some tightening in the national polls. What, if anything, does it tell us?
Well, first of all, welcome back.
Thank you.
Second of all, we don't know, because we haven't had any national polling that is worth a piece of two-day-old cornbread in about a week. There's been nothing out there. We've been in this space where there's substandard polling that looks like maybe there's some movement for Trump. We have one poll, the Pew poll, that shows the race at 4 points. I want to see what we're going to get this week. The state polls we would expect would trail the national trend. So if, in fact, Mr. Trump is doing better than he was before, then we would start to see that play out this week. So we will be watching with bated breath.
Stuart, do you feel like the race is tightening?
I think the race will go up and down, but the structure of this race seems pretty stable to me until something changes it. As long as Donald Trump's favorables are in the mid-30s, it's very difficult for him to grow out of that. If you just think about kind of the common sense, it would require a huge number of people have an unfavorable view of Donald Trump and vote for him. It's possible to overperform your favorables a little bit, but not that much.
But you say that even though Hillary's are her unfavorables are so high?
Hers are better than his, and she has this mechanism called the campaign that is supporting her. I have to give the Clinton campaign credit. I think they have designed an offense that works with a very limited quarterback quite well. And when she has a bad day, and everybody has bad days as a candidate, she has this mechanism of supporters. Today they announced they were doing an $80 million ad buy, and Donald Trump was tweeting about a talk show host. There's just really an unfair advantage there. Not unfair, but there's an unequal advantage that the Clinton campaign has that lifts them up.
All right, well, what about it, though, Chris? Because 77 days, right? Trump has been more disciplined. I mean, I realize referring to women as neurotic in general is not a great idea.
These are relative terms. These
right?
are relative terms. More discipline.
Okay,
right.
so that was today. But he's got 77 days, and other than, some tweets, he's been more disciplined. He's been on message. Can he turn it around?
Well, he needs, I think Stuart is absolutely right, that he needs the structure of the race to change. The closest in an average of real polls that Donald Trump has ever been is 4.2 points behind Hillary Clinton. That was the best. That was basically as the conventions began. And he's been as far down as 10. He needs the structure of this race to change in order to win. And the way that that happens isn't by incremental improvement. He's got to do that just so that he can stay competitive. What he needs is for Hillary Clinton to have a kablooey, and she had a medium kablooey today. It was not great with those emails. So he's got to hope for kablooey after kablooey after kablooey after kablooey.
And he might get it, depending on what we see with this.
She's terrible at running for president.
With this email drip, drip, drip. It's great to see you both. Thanks, guys.
You bet.
Thank you.
Well, a state devastated by the worst disaster since Superstorm Sandy is now preparing for a visit by President Obama. Louisiana resident and Family Research Council President Tony Perkins is next on what he thinks about that. Almost a week after devastating floods in Louisiana became a top national story, and 4 days after Donald Trump paid a visit to the state, President Obama tomorrow shows up to see the damage and will take new heat for what critics call his delayed response. Will Carr is in Baton Rouge tonight for us with the very latest. Will?
Good evening, Megyn. When President Obama comes here tomorrow, he will see devastation that stretches for more than 25 miles. This has been the biggest natural disaster to hit the United States since Superstorm Sandy back in 2012. And over the past 48 hours, residents in this area have been pulling out through their gutted homes, and piling all of their possessions out onto the streets. President Obama is going to see this, and many residents say they have a direct message for him.
Just help us. Just no red tape. Just help us. Don't make us jump through all these hoops. Some of us just don't have anything. And if you just do that, that'd be fine.
60,000 homes were damaged in these floods. 110,000 residents have filed to get federal help. Donald Trump was here last week. Hillary Clinton issued a statement today that says that she will come when the time is appropriate. And politics aside, residents here, Megyn, tell us they will take any help that they can get from the country. Megyn.
Will, thank you. Earlier today, Hillary Clinton stated her intention to tour the areas affected by the Louisiana floods. That news coming just days after rival Donald Trump's visit to the state, which included a stop at a local church, where my next guest caught up with the GOP nominee. Tony Perkins joins me now. He's the president of the Family Research Council. Tony, great to see you. I'm so sorry to hear about your family's scare and you're having to leave your devastated home. We had you on the program last week. I wasn't here, but this was right before Donald Trump came to the area. You saw him when he came. Describe the situation there and the effect that visit had.
Well, it's good to be with you, Megyn. Welcome back from vacation. Donald Trump, his visit here, actually I called, talked to his campaign and said, look, we could use the attention that would come with the presidential campaign if you had come down, because there was basically no attention. The president missed the boat when it came to his opportunity to look presidential. And Donald Trump came, the campaign said, we don't want the media to be in tow. We want to come down and actually see firsthand. As I toured the area with Donald Trump and Mike Pence, he was astounded at the depth and breadth of the destruction here in the wake of this flood, and he was visibly moved. And as he met with residents, they were moved by his compassion and concern. I think the president really did miss the boat in his opportunity to look presidential. Not that people are necessarily looking for the government to do everything for them. We've got a tremendous faith-based response going on. My first call was to my friend Franklin Graham at Samaritan's Purse. They're set up in our church parking lot helping hundreds of people clean out their homes and try to put the pieces of their lives back together again.
Just so our viewers know, you had to evacuate from your home with your children. You have 5 kids in a canoe, all 7 of you in a canoe. You were turned away from the first place you tried to find shelter, but found some help. And is this your home we're looking at here?
It is. That's my home. It was an oversized canoe. There was room for 7. We made our way out, and it was a Baptist church that actually, quite frankly, was full. It wasn't equipped to be a shelter, and we had a church member took us in for the night. But look, this is widespread. A lot of people have lost everything. And what is encouraging about this, Megyn? Let me talk about the good story here. It's how Americans are responding by coming here from across the country, volunteering with organizations like Samaritan's Purse. purse, giving of their time and resources to help their fellow American. And I want to thank Donald Trump and Mike Pence for coming down here and bringing the media attention to something that was being overlooked. Again, it's American helping American. This is when it's all said and done, it's going to be a good story about how Americans still care for one another.
A nice uplifting note to leave it on. Tony, thank you very much. We'll cover the president's visit tomorrow. And all the best to you and your family and all the good people of Louisiana.
Thanks, Megyn.
We'll be right back. So I had a great vacation. Spent it with my family. Thank you very much. Got to spend some time with my little ones, which was awesome. Worked on my books, Settle for More, now available, pre-order. And found out an old wives' cure to something. If you're coughing all night, you put something on your feet and then you put your socks on. At Megyn Kelly on Twitter if you know what it is. See you tomorrow.